Good day, guys. My name is Damilola Damisax, and it's always my privilege to be your saxophone tutor. Today, we'll be talking about some of these frequently asked questions about the saxophone. Many beginners, advanced, and even professionals do ask some of these questions. So I made my research about some of these questions that most saxophonists always ask about, and I came up with some answer. If you're a saxophonist too, you can add your own answer below the comment box if you feel you still have more answers to the question. All right, so we have 10 questions there, and I'll be asking the question and I'll be answering it as well. The first question is this. Somebody asks, how long does it take to learn saxophone? How long does it take to learn saxophone? You are interested in learning the saxophone, and you are asking, how long does it take me to learn a saxophone? All right, the answer is this. Everybody is a learner. You don't stop learning till you are normal. So even me, I'm still learning. All the professional saxophonists are still learning. But let's come to the level of this. To be able to blow, at least to be able to play saxophone at a stage level, I would recommend 3 months. From 3 months, because this question is hard to ask, to answer. After 3 months, you can start going upstage. That is after consistent practice and dedication. Saxophone is a very complex instrument. It has 12 keys, and before you learn all the 12 keys, before you learn scale, you cannot just know one key and go upstage and play. What if you get there and they say, okay, come and play for us, and somebody said to go to another key? So at least if you are consistent and you are so serious, it deals with different assimilation method. After 3 months, you can start, going to stage to play. And after that, you'll pick up many challenge and you start doing well. At least on a key, after 3 months, you should be able to start doing well on the saxophone. All right, that is for number one. And also, it depends on how skillful you are. And so, it's not that after 3 months you'll be able to play. It might take you 6 months. It might take some people 1 year before they could be able to play this saxophone very well. But at least after 3 months, not like you cannot even see 1 month saxophonist that will play the saxophone. But I recommend 3 months to avoid embarrassment and reason why you might not want to learn the saxophone again. Number two, somebody asked a question that, why do I sound so flat? That maybe sometimes you are playing the saxophone and you're sounding flat. This is common with many saxophonists. You pick up your saxophone and you're not sounding. You're sounding what? Why are you sounding so flat? Well, if you're sounding so flat, the way you can correct that, number one, check your mouthpiece. If your mouthpiece is not in a good depth, you adjust it, you push it inside. Then number two, check your embouchure. If you are playing, if your mouth is too outside, you might sound flat. Or your mouth, if your muzzle of your mouth is too loose, you might decide to tighten it a bit. So if you are sounding flat, check your mouthpiece, check your embouchure, and try and play in a relaxed mode. At least it will help you so that you might not sound flat. So that is proper embouchure, proper posture, then check your mouthpiece. It will seriously help you. Then somebody asks again, too much spit, this is the third question, too much spit in the saxophone, that is too much of saliva in the saxophone, how can I correct it? Too much saliva in the saxophone, how can I correct it? Well, the first thing is you have a steady airflow. Control your sound, steady airflow. If you are playing the saxophone and you don't have a consistent steady airflow, you might spit on the saxophone. The next one is check your tonguing. Tonguing, tap, tap, tap. If you don't get it right, you might just be spitting into the saxophone. It's not that when you spit into the saxophone, Actually, you have what's it called? Most time you have ways of cleaning it after the saxophone, but you need to check excess saliva. Then please stay away from food before you play saxophone. You don't just eat finish and go and play the saxophone. There's tendency of some of these remnants of food going back to the saxophone, or you drink some kind of water, maybe fluid or juice, and start playing the saxophone. Most of the time, some of this might add spit, and before you know it will be dropping inside the saxophone. So please check, avoid food before playing saxophone. Yeah, stay away from food before you play the saxophone. Then work on the consistency of your airflow, that is your sound control, which is very, very important, because you need a lot of air. So when you have this lot of air coming into the saxophone, it will control the rate at which you spit into the saxophone. Then the next question said, how can I have a better tone? Yeah, how can I improve on my tone? Well, for you to improve on your tone, I think I have done a video on that. You can check my previous videos in this channel. Number one, you need to work on your embrochio. Have a good embrochio. If you want to get a proper tone, have a good embrochio. Work on a good breathing exercise. You need to relax. Good breathing exercise is very, very important. Practice your long tone. Practice your long tone, and to improve your tone, then practice a proper posture. Don't a proper posture, a relaxed posture. Check my previous video. I think I've talked more about how to have a better tone. So that is the fourth question. Then the fifth question says, do you have some tips against biting too hard on the mouthpiece? Do you have some tips against biting too hard on the mouthpiece? You see, sometimes most saxophonists, they will bite. This is the mouthpiece to be so deep. Blowing into the saxophone is not with the number of strength you have. It doesn't mean with number of size. So some people think it's about the size of somebody that makes the sound comes out. No, or maybe the way you can use all your strength to blow it, that is how to produce a good sound. So sometimes you transfer the strength to your teeth, and you might be biting your mouthpiece too hard. So one of the way to solve that solution is you relax yourself. Whenever you are playing the saxophone, play in a relaxed mode. You don't have to you don't have to show that strength and put it. You see some people trying to it might start affecting your mouthpiece, because when you start biting so hard, I made that mistake too before. I have to learn another way, so that it's not how long you bite it that produces the sound, but get a good posture, relax, playing in a relaxed manner. And whenever you're playing, think of your teeth just resting on the saxophone. You see, even if you fold your eye, it still produces the same sound. It's still producing the same sound. So most of the times, you stressing your eyes, squeezing your face, and biting the mouthpiece might not really be necessary, because if you get the technique, you don't really need some of these biting and making it look like that is the only thing that will produce a good sound on the saxophone. Then the next question is, which is number 6. He said, can I learn saxophone by watching videos alone, or do I need a private lesson teacher? Well, let me be honest here, because I myself too, I do saxophone tutorials onto YouTube, at least like what I'm doing. Both of them has advantage and disadvantages. So it's not that maybe if you learn by watching, it's better than having a personal, a one-on-one coach. Both of them has advantage. Well, like learning on the YouTube or by watching alone, it makes you self-reliant. It makes you to be able to be self-independent. You can play the video anytime. You can watch the video anytime. You can always go back. You can come at your own leisure time and watch it. But when you have a one-on-one coach, at least there are some questions you cannot ask me. There's something that you might want to do, you might not be able to ask the question now. But if you have a one-on-one coach, you can always ask, I've tried this, I've watched many videos, I'm not getting it. Please put me through. Everybody needs a teacher. Everybody needs a teacher. At least there's nobody in this life that have not gone through one teacher or the other. So you need a teacher. You don't just go to school by watching alone. You need somebody to teach you and show you some steps to make it easy. It's not that if you watch video you cannot get it, but to make the process faster, you might need a coach. So watching video will help. Getting a tutor too, one-on-one, will also help. So the two of them are two in one. So watching video will help. Getting a private teacher too will help. So the seventh question is, sometimes I get so bored and don't know what to practice. Can you suggest way in which you can practice? Wow, there are a lot of things to practice. A lot of things to practice, especially when you feel so bored. There will be a lot of many things to practice. Have you mastered all your skill? All right, let me give you these tips. 3 tips you should practice for the next 30 days or for the next 1 month. You should start working on it. That is, if you are even bored of practicing anything, work on your tone. Anytime you pick up your saxophone, practice long tone exercise. Just pick up a key. Consistent airflow as long as your breath can sustain or can carry you. Try it on every key or maybe on a particular key. Consistent airflow, long tone practice. This will help you to maintain consistent airflow. It will improve your sound and your tone as well. So practice long tone, then pick up new scale every week. Today you can pick up pentatonic scale, work on it. A lot of scale there. Diatonic scale, bebop scale, chromatic scale. Pick up a scale, play with it, do permutation, play in 3, play in 4. You can start from C, like your normal diatonic scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You can play, you can permutate with it. Go from this scale. Transfer it to the next key, do it in the other key. We have a lot of things. Just try as much as pick a new song, sing a song from this key, transpose it to the other key, change it to the other key, try it another key. By the time you try it, even though it's just one song, you will see that you have a solid rehearsal. And if you keep doing it for 1 month, tell me, in fact, you don't need anybody to tell me, you see that you start doing so well. You will improve drastically if you can be consistent for 1 month. Just give it a try. Give it a 1 month consistent rehearsal and ask people around, how do you see my playing compare with the previous, maybe a month ago? You will people start telling you that, wow, you do know you are doing so well now because you give it time. So consistent practice with solid timing and following the practice schedule will improve you. All right, so we have the next question, which is question 8. The question 8 says, what is the difference between beginner and professional saxophone? Okay, let me add my own to this again. What is the difference between beginner saxophonist and professional saxophonist? Well, a beginner saxophone or a beginner saxophonist, let me answer the first question. A beginner saxophone and a professional saxophone, talking about this, the difference is just the quality. The quality of the sound that's come out of it makes the difference. It's just like saying that what's the difference between this car and the other car? They are both cars, but cars varies from cars. When you see some car, you know that they are cars and they are also cars. So if you're talking about professional saxophonists too, what differentiates a professional saxophonist from a beginner saxophonist is the quality of that tone, that sound. the way you play your normal song is different from if they are playing the same notes you just played. You will see that sound, that tone, that quality will be different. So it's just the quality. And that doesn't mean that if you get a beginner saxophone, doesn't mean that you might not sound good. No, you might sound even better than somebody that is not good, that is holding a professional saxophone. Imagine a professional saxophonist playing beginner saxophone, and you that you're a beginner saxophonist playing a professional saxophone. You don't expect to sound better than the professional saxophone because it's just the quality. He knows what to do, or he or she knows what to do to make the sound more quality, more soulful, more expressive than you that you are just a beginner. So it's all about the technique. It's all about knowing how to make use of the magic. It's all about your audience, knowing how to give it to your audience, knowing how to make your audience want more from you. So difference between a professional saxophone and a beginner saxophone is just the quality. So I think that answered that question. Then the next question is, that is the number 9th question, said, how often should you change the reed of your saxophone? How often should you change the reed of the saxophone? You see, sometimes as a beginner saxophonist, you are just buying reed. After using it, it's like, I think I should change this. Yeah, or maybe I feel like changing it. You don't just feel like changing reed. This is the reed. You don't just feel like changing reed. Okay, if you want to even change it every few weeks, you could change it. Or let me put it this way: changing your reed should be if you notice it has damage or it has worn out. As a saxophonist, when you are playing it, you will know in your mind that it has worn out, when it's not giving you that good sound, that good tone you want. So you will even feel it. So if your saxophone is, your reed is not damaged, or your reed has not worn out, you don't need to change the reed. Don't just, unless if you have money of just buying reed every time. But there's no point of changing reed when the one you have is still good. So if it has not worn out, or if it has not, if it's not damaged, there's no need of changing it. You can still use it. But if you just feel like changing it, then maybe after a few weeks of using it, you might change it and get a new one. Okay, now the last question, the 10th question here says, what are the hard things to learn on saxophone? Wow. What are the hard things to learn on saxophone? Well, learning saxophone can be so challenging. Because saxophone is far different. It's a different thing from other instruments, especially an instrument like keyboard. Keyboard, you can learn a key and you transpose to any other key. You can be master of one key and be able to play with anybody singing on different key. But for saxophone, because of the complex nature, you don't transpose. Is a transposed instrument already. So if you're on key C, you have to play on that key C. If the person is singing on key D on the saxophone, you play on the key D on the saxophone. So you don't bend the way. You don't. There's no shortcut to it. You just have to learn how to play all the keys, especially if you want to be a professional saxophone. So talking about the hard things to learn on the saxophone, well, I will first of all say there is nothing hard that is impossible. There's nothing that is not possible if you are willing to pay the sacrifice. We said it is hard because you are not ready to pay the sacrifice. So if you're ready to practice it, if you're ready to stick with it, if you're ready to sacrifice your time, you will realize that it's not as hard as what you think, or it's not as hard as the way you look at it. But although there are some that might really give you time, in which trying to assimilate it might take time. Things like altissimo register. Yeah, if you're playing your altissimo, it's not as easy as learning your keys, because altissimo, you have to work on your embrochure, and there are some altissimo that you have to work on your overtone, which is another thing to work to another hard thing again to learn. You need to work on your overtone. So after working on overtone to produce some altissimo range, altissimo after key F, after the key F, after the side key, after this side key here, after this side key, then if you are going higher, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp or B flat, then B. Those notes, they are not in the conventional saxophone range. You just have to see how to maneuver it. So playing those kind of things might look hard to learn, but if you are ready to take your time, I've done a video on altissimo. You can check it. You will see that it's not as hard as the way you look at it. Then improvisation, jazz improvisation. Improvisation is another key thing that might look hard for many people. When you're improvising, nobody is telling you what to do. You're not following a pattern. You are just creating the pattern, and you must watch your landing notes. You must not go off beat. You must play in tone. So these two might look hard for you to learn. Also, circular breathing, playing in tone. Many of these things seems hard to learn. Even tonguing that is as easy like that. We are doing double tonguing, triple tonguing. It might be challenging, but if you're ready to practice and if you're ready to be consistent, you will get it right. So these are some of the 10 questions that I've gathered from research and from most saxophonists or most of my students, and I did a lot of research. I saw it that most saxophonists always ask some of these questions. It's a common question: why so much speed on the saxophone? Why did that sound so flat? What is the difference between beginner saxophonist and professional saxophonist? How did I improve my tone? A lot of this, and I've provided the answer to it. So please, if you have any other question that you feel like you want to ask, you can drop it on the comment box. I will answer it. And if you feel like those questions that I've asked, you still have more answer to it, you can suggest it or write it at the comment box. You might be helping somebody that has been willing to get that kind of question or get that kind of answer right. So thank you so much. I still remain Dami Sax. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for always checking by, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. And please, if you've not subscribed, please do well by subscribing. Subscribing is free anyway. Subscribe to my channel and for more video. Thank you. See you in the next video. God bless you.